This is John. He's a procrastinator.
I like to watch YouTube after work.
Ow!
But I finally got something done! Check it! Mid-2017 was the start of a productive time for me in terms of art. It was also a time in which I juggled between personal projects, small animations, motion comics, and much more. As of this video, none of those projects have come to fruition just yet. However, there was one project I wanted to do as practice for getting into making comics, and that was to polish some of the sketches I've made. This was a big step for me. While I love seeing my pictures in full color, I never found making cleaner line art all that engaging to do. Shamefully, I admit, I've done my best to avoid it altogether. So I challenged myself to exercise my enthusiasm for cleaning up my art, rather than leaving them in their doodled states. The start of the project was simple. Pick out which sketch would be best to get polished, and then go for it. The tricky thing was, I had a lot of sketches that I wanted to see fully realized, so I decided to use a random list generator to whittle down my choices to 10 pictures. Then it ended up being 11 for reasons that I will show soon enough. The first piece was completed in the 6th of November 2017, and the 11th and final piece was completed on the 19th of December 2018. Why the long wait? Well, remember earlier when I said that I'm a procrastinator? Yeah, that happened. A lot, in fact. But eventually, it was all completed, and I'm very happy to share these pictures from start to finish, touching on details and trivia on each picture. So, let's get started. So the first picture of the bunch is the Great Kabu from the Kirby of the Stars anime, more widely known in the Western world as Kirby Right Back At Ya, spitting out an X-Wing fighter. This picture stemmed from an inside joke from my buddy Mike and I, noting how there were quite a few comparisons between the plot of the anime and the Star Wars movies. So right off the bat, I was getting cold feet. I asked my best friend Gemma to collaborate with me on the picture, which she happily did, tackling the line art while I colored and added lighting and shading. After that, we put in our signatures. Admittedly, the scenery of the source material and the X-Wing were what made me freeze up a little when trying to ink the picture, but coloring everything in was no problem. All in all, this was a very interesting start of the project. Oh, and to anyone wondering about the captions, no cursing here, folks. The second picture was actually not part of the original 10 on the list, but I still wanted to ink and color it. Nevertheless, my reenactment of Spider-Man defeating Shocker has the honor of being the very first picture I finalized of the bunch. By myself. This is the second picture of the bunch, but this is the very first one that I inked by myself. Anyway! I chose this sketch in particular, as I was reading through my growing collection of the older Spider-Man comics, and found it funny how Shocker was defeated by Spidey webbing Shocker's thumbs away from the trigger buttons on his shock gauntlets. In my version, I gave the scene more of the modern Spider-Man humor by having Spidey humiliating Shocker even further using a web-constructed Chinese finger trap on his thumbs. Seriously, I'd totally see that happening in Spectacular Spider-Man or in the Insomniac Spider-Man universe. Drawing Shocker getting, well, no avoiding the pun, shocked by his predicament was really fun to draw and clean up, though getting the right positioning for Spidey himself was rather tough. If I had to do this scene again, I'd probably draft up the scene more fully and plan out the positioning better. Even so, I'm quite happy with how this came out. Here we have the third picture. Kirby with the water ability giving a nice shower to a couple of Lovelies. After finishing the Spidey beating Shocker picture, I only had 2 days left before 2017 ended, so I wanted to finish with something simple, colorful, and fun. Without missing a beat, I decided on the water Kirby picture. The coolest thing about drawing characters in the Kirby universe is that just about everyone is simple and fun to draw, so getting everyone polished took very little time. In fact, the only trouble spot in making the final draft is the gushing water. Or more specifically, the light passing through the liquid, making it look more like water fanning out, rather than a wild, dried paint hat. Even with that, it was still a really fun picture to end the year on.
Also, I'm really happy that Water Kirby made it into Kirby Star Allies!
So after ending 2017 with a polished Kirby-themed picture, what do I start polishing in 2018? A simple Mega Man-themed picture. Or more specifically, Galaxy Man flying in his UFO mode. As easy as Galaxy Man is to draw in his normal form, there wasn't any official reference of his UFO mode that I could use, just sprites, fan art, and the early drafts of his design. Guess who didn't check the gallery in Mega Man Legacy Collection 2? That could have saved me a bunch of time! So I mostly winged it. I'm quite pleased with the angle of the picture, plus the small shading I did on his silver body. The second picture of January, and the fifth picture of the bunch, is a simple picture of Spider-Man shooting his web while sticking to a higher building. The background was incredibly minimalistic, as I wanted to keep Spidey the main focus of the picture. I found it to be good practice for trying to draw the web patterns on his costume, and also getting the right pose for him. And for those curious on why I draw his costume the way I do, I generally give him the classic web wings and eyes that are linked with the Steve Ditko kind of design. This is something that you can find in media like Spectacular Spider-Man or Spider-Man Homecoming. The larger logo on his chest is based on the Sam Raimi films. I'd feel that a larger spider would get more attention versus a tiny one that would be right on the chest. That's my opinion, anyway. Later in the month, I touched up more of an obscure piece of fan art. As a child, I've always enjoyed the Sierra Online point-and-click, or text parser adventure games, one of which is Quest for Glory. I wanted to evoke the ominous, dark, yet enchanted feeling of the encounter against the Brigand leader in the first game. However, due to the color limitations of the original game, the cloak seemed a little too bright and clashed with the darker portions of the outfit, so I decided to darken the cloak. I'm also very happy with how the eyes were slightly obscured, but enough to be visible, even with the shading of the cloak. A simple piece, yet I believe it sets the mood. Here we have Undyne bench pressing a bunch of monster children. And she added sands to the mix. Plus his guard station. Admittedly, I don't have much to say on the picture, although my best friend, and editor for the script, and collaborative help for this video, commented on how she liked the sense of weight in the picture, giving that sort of triumphant feel of Undyne being able to lift such a heavy load off her chest. Thank you, Gemma! The next picture is a reenactment of one of my favorite Strong Bad email episodes, Caffeine! It took a little over a month to complete, since I had to juggle a lot of tasks during that time, whether it be my pet sitting job, attending the Christian congregation meetings, project work with Studio Catbird, or just sheer procrastination. Still, I endeavored to continue.
After further inking and coloring, the test subject was bright, exaggerated, and really fun to replicate. Seriously, go watch this episode. This is one of the funniest things that I've ever seen.
So now we've reached the 9th picture, where I began to hesitate a good long while. And I mean a good long while. I intended to wrap the art polishing project up by late August of 2018, but I was severely intimidated by a number of things. Electro's pose, the generators, and the way that he was absorbing all the electric power into his body. There's quite a few sparks flying out, so that alone intimidated me a good deal. After a few months, I was about to try working on the picture again, but a series of troubles with my old laptop, then my replacement laptop, then my back, ended up pushing the project back several more months. It was daunting, yet I didn't give up. By the 10th of September 2018, I finished the picture, using a combination of both Fire Alpaca for the majority of the work, and Adobe Photoshop CS4 for all the lightning discharge effects and pushing out the contrast. So the picture is heavily based on Electro's comic debut, where he takes in energy from his own generators. Instead of using these strange Van de Graaff-looking generators, I decided to give him 2 Tesla towers. His design, I opted to give him the same color scheme as his classic design, while his overall design is more in line of his Ultimate Spider-Man look, being bald, energetic, full bodysuit with no mask. However, the sparks emitted around his face is kind of like his star mask. In spite of how long it took me to finish this picture, I'm very pleased with the ending result. I'm not afraid to say that this one is one of my favorite pictures of this set. And here we have my random Monster Rancher picture made widely known by a certain dashing panda man.
And I have some questions.
And I have a question too, Antony. Why did you show the one picture and not the thread? Oh, Twitter, why did you fail to share the thread to Antony? I'm okay. Now, before finishing this picture, I had been hit by another wave of procrastination. This time in the form of getting my own Nintendo Switch, and playing Mega Man 11, Pokemon Let's Go, and Kirby Star Allies. Well, the latter I usually need another person to play the game with me, usually being Mike or my dad. Needless to say, getting the work I wanted done was really tough. But then suddenly, the Panda Man Tony issued this challenge!
If you can complete your project of which you've been procrastinating these many months, before I complete my project over which I have been procrastinating for these many months, I will feature it in the credits of this video.
That, along with the support of my best friend Gemma, got me pumped! Bring it on! I bellowed at the computer screen. So admittedly, I didn't put too much effort in the background and in the chess table, as I wanted the Nicta flying in the sky, along with the Horn and Suezo to be the focal points. I also added the Mach in the background, just for giggles. And that leaves us with the final picture of the group, Sword Kirby and Meta Knight in the heat of their duel. This was a picture I saved for last, as I knew it was going to be simple, but not overtly so. Meta Knight, why must you be so awkward to draw? When drawing this picture, I only intended to add shading and lighting to the swords and leave it with a plain background. But given how happy I was finishing Kirby's adventure once more through my new 2DS XL, I felt compelled to add in lighting on Meta Knight's armor as well. I also decided to add in the castle setting from the Meta Knight fight in that game. I couldn't have been happier with how this picture came out. I favored this one the most out of all the pictures I finalized in this set. So, 2018 has come and gone, and a majority of my projects are still unfinished. In spite of that, I'm very happy that I could turn these sketches into lively colored pieces. 2019 will bring a couple of more art and game projects on the channel, 2 of which are going to be Mega Man related. Surprise, surprise. And possibly an animatic or 2. By gum, I'm gonna get stuff done. So in the meantime, I want to thank my best friend Gemma for editing the script of this, and also for helping me with a couple of art assets in this video, and for being incredibly supportive. I also want to thank my best friend and little brother Mike, also known as Leo Sketch, my good buddy Roll Mithril, my dad, my older brothers Joe and Josh, and Jehovah for being incredibly supportive throughout the year. I also want to thank Antony Cannon for showcasing the Suezo picture on his channel, also for pumping out yet another procrastination challenge. Didn't think this video would be a part of this challenge too. I also want to thank my friend Evelyn, known on her channel as The Noble Demon, for allowing me to use her beautiful arrangement of grape gardens from Kirby's Adventure. And I also want to thank all of you for watching my art project showcase. Thank you very much for your patience. It means a lot. I will see you next time with the next project on the channel, whatever I decide to post. Take care!